what led the creation of Garden Up? How come it all started?
So, in research, in a PhD program of 5-6 years, there is a process. You give like a synopsis, you defend that synopsis, then you go for your field work, because mine was in ecology. So when I came back from the forest, and then you have to, for like 2 years or a year, you have to analyze that data, lots of statistics, and then you have to write research papers. और आपको ऐसे कह सकते हैं कि आपको माना जाता है रिसर्च में तभी जब आप पेपर पब्लिश कर लेते हैं, अदरवाइज इट्स So they're peer reviewed. So ये जो process था data, analyzing my data and writing was really boring. I really enjoyed being in the forest and going after the elephants and all the large herbivores. But when I came back in Bangalore and I was sitting and doing that in my hostel or in my lab, I was really bored. So I definitely missed the greens. And it was after really long that I had to be seated in one place, because before that, even in my master's, there was a lot of field work I did from Forest Research Institute. So they have access to like most forests of the country. So we would go on a lot of field work. So this was the first time I was sitting and, being in a typical towny place. Bangalore is heavily city. I mean,
Absolutely.
it's a typical city. So I really miss the greens, and I wanted to bring a couple of them in my hostel room. And I was like, अच्छा एक और ले आते हैं, 2 और ले आते हैं, and then I realized there was really this urge to make it into a forest.
And then how come the YouTube transition happened?
So like any other gardener, I also had a lot of issues, like what is this insect, why is this insect? And when I went on the internet like everybody else, I figured that everybody was talking about gardening like it was how to, step 1, step 2, step 3. Nobody was talking about like why do you take a cutting, why, how does it work, like what is the science? So because I had that science background, I could quickly Google search, see 1 or 2 review paper and understand, acha, so this is why we're doing this. So I thought, why not bring that out? And since I was looking for like a creative vent for myself, so I started that YouTube channel thinking that I can probably add some value.
Hi everyone, good evening and welcome to Cracking the Code presented by OnFlit. So today it's our 19th episode with Ekta Chaudhary, and ladies and gentlemen, I'm super excited. So let me quickly introduce Ekta for all of you. So Ekta hails from Haryana. She is a researcher and an entrepreneur living in Mumbai. She spent a decade studying ecology, ranging from soil nutrition dynamics in the forests of South India to sustainable farming practices in Himalayas. After finishing her PhD from IISc Bangalore, Ekta decided to make a career in digital media and edutainment through her venture Garden Up, a logical extension of her very successful YouTube channel. Today, her channel has 1.02 million subscribers, and the channel focuses on growing things with minimum space, mostly indoors. The channel makes sense for most of us, as we do face a lot of space issues, and growing plants in and around urban household can be hard. This will be an exciting and super fun-filled conversation where we will be talking about Ekta's life, her journey, her YouTube career, and most importantly now, her entrepreneurial avatar. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for none other than Ekta Chaudhary. Hi
Hello.
Ekta, good evening. Welcome to Cracking the Code.
Thank you so much for having me.
I'm super excited for the conversation, and like as I have already spoken a bit about your like introduction, and we were chatting like we were chit chatting a bit backstage. My first question to you, or the first thing I want to know from you, you have almost been all over the country, right from southern India to Himalayas. You've been all over the place, right? So after living at so many places like Delhi, Bangalore, Mumbai, Uttarakhand, how do you define yourself? And when somebody asks you who you are and what you do, how do you introduce yourself?
I think this is the most difficult question to answer. In fact, मेरे parents को भी नहीं पता इसका answer क्या है. My
Okay.
mother was like, okay, I don't know what do you do. What do I tell people? What do you do? So I think, well, career-wise, I would say I was a researcher who sort of trained me to become an entrepreneur.
Mhm.
And now I do YouTube content. I actually do YouTube channels. I have a home decor, plant decor store. and it's a full business now. So we do workshops with corporate clients, and I'm working on a book. My first draft is to be submitted in March. So yes, this is the range of things that I do now.
Now, Ekta, I want to quickly, for the audience and the people who are listening to us for the first time, I quickly want to talk about your journey a bit. Like, how did it all started? You did your BSc from Miranda, and then you ended up doing PhD from ISC, and then started a YouTube channel. So I think it's a pretty long journey, and I'm sure it will be pretty exciting one. So let's
Hmm.
quickly jump into it and start talking about your journey. So how has been the journey so far, and where you started and where are you today?
I don't know where to start from, because I think my choices in life have been generally, I always knew what I don't want to do. It was very rare that I knew what I want to do. So, for
Okay.
example, 11th, 12th, my parents are doctors. So, obviously, it's like you expected to become a doctor by a hook or crook. But I was like, I really like biology, but I cannot be a doctor. So, I went to do a BSc Life Science from Miranda. And then I was like, okay, most people were doing the traditional chemistry, physics, that kind of masters courses. And then I was like, okay, I don't want to do these traditional things. I want to do something interdisciplinary, perhaps. So I did environmental science. Then when I finished masters, I was like, okay, everybody is doing a corporate job. I don't want to do corporate job. These are my options. So I went for a PhD. Actually, it was much later when in my PhD and I was about to finish, when I saw most of my friends, colleagues were leaving for abroad to do a postdoc, because that's the typical in the most of institutes in India. If you want to join as a faculty in any of the premier institute, you have to have like a
Hmm.
postdoc from one of the fanciest Ivy League universities outside India.
Hmm.
But I was very certain I don't want to do that. And then I started exploring what are things that I want to do. And by then I already had started Garden Up in my hostel, because I was just looking for a creative vent during my
Hmm.
PhD. And then I thought probably I can give this a chance. And I'm so glad that I did, because now I finally feel in life that this is what I've been wanting to do. Yeah, so that's how it went.
So the strategy of knowing what you don't like, and I think this elimination thing, I think it's a great strategy. But I also want to understand, like you said, that I never wanted to do the conventional. So were you a curious kid by any chance? Were you the one who was right from the beginning, a little unconventional, exploring something different? Were you a curious kid, or you're just kind of going with the flow? How was your early years were? How were your early years?
Well, I don't think of myself very unconventional. My family definitely does.
Okay.
Uh, and I curious, probably I was, because I think that's what landed me in a PhD.
Hmm.
Because I just wanted to, I was 22 when I started my PhD, and I was like, I just want to, I want to know this natural ecosystem.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
probably, yes, I can say that. Perhaps I was a curious kid.
You started the YouTube channel while you were doing your research, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I was reading your YouTube channel about bio, and there was a very interesting line which says, urge to convert a tiny hostel room into a private little sanctuary, right? Now, this is a very interesting line. So, tell me more about the mindset you had, what was you going through, and what led the creation of Garden Up? How come it all started?
So, in research, in a PhD program of 5 6 years, there is a process. You give like a synopsis, you defend that synopsis,
Hmm.
then you go for your field work, because mine was in ecology. So when I came back from the forest, and then you have to, for like 2 years or a year, you have to analyze that data, lots of statistics, and then you have to write research papers. और आपको ऐसे कह सकते हैं कि आपको माना जाता है रिसर्च में तभी जब आप पेपर पब्लिश कर लेते हैं, अदरवाइज इट्स
Okay.
so they're peer reviewed. So ये जो process था data, analyzing my data and writing was really boring. I
Hmm.
really enjoyed being in the forest and going after the elephants and all the large herbivores. But when I came back in Bangalore and I was sitting and doing that in my hostel or in my lab, I was really bored. So I definitely missed the greens. And it was after really long that I had to be seated in one place, because before that, even in my masters, there was a lot of field work I did from Forest Research Institute. So they have access to like most forests of the country. So we would go on a lot of field work. So this was the first time I was sitting and, being in a typical towny place. Bangalore is heavily city. I mean, it's a big
Absolutely.
like it's a typical city. So I really miss the greens, and I wanted to bring a couple of them in my hostel room. And I was like, अच्छा एक और ले आते हैं, दो और ले आते हैं, and then I realized there was really this urge to make it into a forest.
And then how come the YouTube transition happened?
So like any other gardener, I also had a lot of issues like, what is this insect? Why is this insect? And when I went on the internet, like everybody else, I figured that everybody was talking about gardening like it was how to, step one, step two, step three. Nobody was talking about like why. Why do you take a cutting? Why? How does it work? Like, what is the science? So because I had that science background, I could quickly Google search, see one or two review paper, and understand. Acha, so this is this is why we're doing this. So I thought, why not bring that out? And since I was looking for like a creative vent for myself, so I started that YouTube channel, thinking that I can probably add some value.
How important, and I want to emphasize I want you to emphasize a lot onto that, how important is it to have a right knowledge, right skill set, and domain expertise if you
Yeah.
really want to take up this knowledge business as a serious game? So I want to talk a bit about that on now.
So, if you're talking just about YouTube, see, I started with for my wildlife work, I had a Nikon, a very basic camera, and rest everything else. I had a senior who was leaving for US for his postdoc, and I convinced him to sell the light and everything like at 50% or whatever I forced him. So, but these were like basic things I learned from Google. कि आपको एक mic चाहिए होता है, आपको एक light source चाहिए होता है, वरना you look too dark, and you of course need a camera. And by that time, like 3 years back, smartphones इतने अच्छे नहीं हुए थे जितने अब हो गए हैं. So this was the setup I started, and of course then I kept improving depending on the kind of earning you're making and the kind of traffic your videos are getting. Good thing also I want to mention here is that YouTube supported me. There's something called YouTube Next Up, where they go looking for people that could be helped in some way. So
Okay.
they gave like a grant of 1,40,000, where they said,
Wow.
okay, this is the money, you can buy anything you like. So this was the upgrade because I didn't have a good camera. So a proper lens, a proper camera, a proper mic, and an editing software is the basic thing that you require, and this is what they funded. So they select, like that time they used to select 10 or 12 every year. Now I think they have done like categories of it. So there's for beauty, there's for music, and I think one is for general or just for women, I think. But at that point, so they used to do this, select 10 or 12 people and give them that money to support them. So that helped me on upgrading. And from then, always it's been like managing ki acha theek hai, I'm making some money now, and this is a time to upgrade because ye meri mic quality achhi nahi hai, yeah, I need like a second camera. And then I kept Googling how to operate it. At this point, you can also hire someone. So if early you just start on your own. And I think all that really matters. I know this is very cliche to say, but it's what matters is good content. एक simple phone से front camera से लिया हुआ video भी अच्छा करेगा अगर content अच्छा है. और content अच्छा नहीं है तो आप उसको Sony Alpha 7 क्या है वो I think 3 लाख रुपए का camera है. वो कुछ नहीं कर पाएगा. So I think it is first the content and then everything else you can upgrade accordingly.
So imagine if you would not have had a let us say BSc background, or you are not doing that research, or didn't have a PhD degree into the whatever area of expertise you have, which is I'm sure related to ecology and gardening and stuff, right? What difference would have made to your channel?
I think I wouldn't have started this channel because, for example, now for me it's very easy to understand a research paper and make like a little story out of it. Jaise meri video hai, which is about air purifying plants, which did really well. It's done in Hindi on Gardener, and that is one completely. I mean, I've played on my strong point, which was research. I did a lot of research. I understood कि कौन से plants है, किस तरीके से they came up with the idea कि indoor plants air purifying होते हैं, क्या experiment करा. हालांकि उसको बताया, I've explained it in a very common knowledge information sort of thing, but reading papers is something that is very easy for me. We read 4 or 5 research papers in a day, and we're taught to do that. So I don't think then probably I would have done.
How was your YouTube curve like? So for somebody who comes from uh,
Hmm.
doctorate background, PhD background, hardcore biology, ecology, that sort of background. And pardon me for misusing the jargons. I'm sorry if I'm if I'm flipping them here and there. But how was the transition like to YouTube? And how was the journey of coming onto YouTube and then learning and understanding? So let's talk a bit about the YouTube journey now.
2017 is when I started Garden Up. I was in my last year of PhD. I was not dependent on it in any form. I was getting my scholarship, and it was not like a thing. It was on the side. 2018, I submitted. 2019, I defended. 2018 to 19 um, is when तो जब आप डिफेंड करते हो और सबमिट करते हो उसमें थोड़ा समय होता है. It takes like 6-7 months for review and everything to come. So this is the time I was getting married. तो उस time I was home, so again I didn't have to be dependent on anything. 2019 when I started living in Mumbai is when I became like a full-time YouTuber कह लो, या when I decided कि okay, I'm not going to go ahead and research and I'll make a career out of this. ये ट्रांजिशन क्योंकि टाइमिंग इस तरीके की थी, शुरू का 1 साल मेरा ऑलरेडी तब हो चुका था जब आई वाज इन कॉलेज. सो आई हैड ऑलरेडी आई थिंक हिट 100K बाय देन. सो इट वाज नेवर फॉर मी कि आज से मैं यूट्यूबर हूँ या आज. इट वाज वेरी नेचुरल. Yes. And when I submitted was the time when I had to decide कि I want to go ahead to become a faculty position or do this. So I decided let's do this and explore what are the other ventures that can be opened along with this to make it sustainable financially be and mentally be मेरे लिए कि I get that creative happiness out of it.
Right. So 0 to 100K कितने टाइम में किया, and 100 to then 100K to 1 million कितने टाइम में किया?
I think 0 to 100K was I think 2019 February or March I touched 100K and
From 0 to
2000
100 0 to 100 बताइए पहले.
0 to 100 was 2017 I started. 2019 I hit 100K and 2020
almost
I
2
hit,
years.
yes,
Almost 2 years.
yes.
Almost 2 years.
I जब मैंने बस अपनी थीसिस डिफेंड करी उसके 2-3 महीने बाद, and this is when I decided.
ठीक है.
और so last year March या February was 100K and this year November was million. So that took like 1.5 year there and 1.5 year here.
So वो compound हो गया basically, right? So what was your first video on YouTube and how much? Okay, so what was the first video? How many views did it get, and what was going through your mind? I wanted to explore that side as well.
So first मैंने 2 वीडियो साथ में शूट कर ली थी. I was not sure if I want to speak. I just wanted to get used to the idea of shooting something. So
Okay.
you don't see my face, you don't hear me. There's just music. And क्योंकि मुझे एडिटिंग भी सीखनी थी, मुझे लाइट वाइट भी सीखना था, कैसे करते हैं वीडियो शूट, कैसे करते हैं सब. So for me the thing is कि वो रिसर्चर का ना दिमाग हमेशा इन प्ले रहता है. So रिसर्च में क्या करते हो, when you go looking for the unknown, you try and reduce your variables. Things that are out of your control. So
Fantastic.
Having to speak was another variable. Showing your face, because you have to look like light should be perfect. Otherwise, you have to comb your hair. You have to wear some clothes. So that is also external variable. जिसको संभालना पड़ेगा. So I reduced all these variables and I said, okay, ये window है, ये table है, camera ऊपर से रहेगा, and let's just shoot the video so that I get used to that idea. So that was the first video. I think I painted a pot or something. I don't know why I posted that video. But
Okay.
हाँ, I think उसको कुछ 10-15-20 views मिले होंगे शुरू में. So
अच्छा.
I used to in a lab में वो जो आप काम देखते हो lab typical, वो एक अलग जगह होता है और students बैठते एक जगह है. तो जब हम बैठते थे, so there was this other guy मेरे ही बैच का जो मेरे बगल में बैठता था, and उसके रोजे चल रहे थे उस टाइम. So Rose is the fasting period for people who don't know in Islam. And he goes like one day at lunch, he's like, यार मुझे इतनी भूख लग रही है, आजकल ना YouTube पे एक लड़की है, वो बिल्कुल तेरी तरह दिखती है. So I used to go and subscribe to myself through my friends' laptops or whatever without them. And so शुरू में when he saw me, he was like, कि perhaps I'm so hungry that I'm imagining stuff and there's people who's looking like you.
Okay.
So, Yeah, that's how it was in the early time. And I wouldn't tell them because I was too shy to tell people that, I have a YouTube channel.
So what
Yeah.
kept you going? Were you mentally prepared? Was it an experiment as a side gig, or what kept you going for that initial 1.5, 2 years till the time you're reaching such like great numbers?
So I was doing very few videos. I was doing I still do one in a month because of all the other things that I was doing. I would shoot them on a Sunday early morning when nobody would be around in the lab. As I said, it was just a creative vent. I didn't
Okay.
want anything out of it. I was not wanting to be कि हाँ मुझे ये YouTuber बनना है या मुझे million वो करना है. And that was not the idea. In fact, it's still not the idea, and I'm very
Okay.
glad for that. So it was honestly not difficult at all for me. हाँ थोड़ा सा
Hmm.
ऐसा लगता है कि ये व्यूज अच्छा आज 100 हो गए, आज 200 हो गए, अब 1000 हो गए, अब 10,000 हो गए, तो वो डेफिनेटली वो किक मिलता है.
Uh-huh.
बट I was probably too busy to be disappointed from it.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's how
And
it.
and and what is that one video that has really performed well for you? Like one of them which got like 1 million views. So what has been the best performing video, and what has been the best like, and when did you post it? Like वो कब
Yeah.
कौन सा time था? वो first 100K का था, second half का था, कब था वो?
May 2018, which was exactly about 1 year after starting the channel, I did a video on indoor plants, best indoor plants in India for decoration or something like that.
Hmm.
Just list of 10 indoor plants. And that video was the one which sort of made me arrive on the YouTube scene.
Okay.
Was YouTube views were something that I had never seen the numbers for my channel. So that's the video.
How has been the investment like, and how has the income like? And for anybody who's an aspiring YouTube entrepreneur or YouTuber trying to build a business into something so niche, because what you do is very, very niche, and I think that's the beauty about what you do, right? It's super niche, right? How has been the outcome like for you, and any tips, advice, things to keep in mind, do's, don'ts for aspiring YouTubers?
This is how I look at my business. There are two aspects to it. There are services and there are goods. Services is all that we do as garden up workshops for corporates, YouTube content, and all of the social media.
Mhm.
The second part is the goods, which is the garden up store. Now,
Hmm.
services is something that you get minimum investment pay maximum gain because you don't have to do much. You don't have to invest money. You have to just invest time. Of course, return भी उसका जब money wise speaking, yes, उसका return अच्छा होता है, but time wise speaking, it is a gamble because
Hmm.
it can go either way. It can do very well or it can just do horribly bad for you.
Hmm.
So you can assess ki what return matters to you both in both these cases. Money वाला return ज़्यादा चाहिए या फिर you know टाइम लगा रहे हो तो
Absolutely.
कुछ मिलेगा या नहीं. गुड्स में क्या है कि आप यू इन्वेस्टिंग मनी फॉर श्योर बट देर इज अ गुड प्रोबेबिलिटी यू माइट सेल समथिंग सो यू माइट आपने 100 रुपए लगाए तो आप शायद 150 रुपए बना लो बट देर इज लॉट ऑफ कॉम्पिटिशन इन दैट देर आर लॉट ऑफ स्टोर्स देर आर लॉट ऑफ होम डेकोर स्टोर्स सो दिस इज द ट्रेड ऑफ दैट आई सी. ये जो फर्स्ट वाला है जो आप सर्विसेज वाला है इसमें कॉम्पिटिशन उतना ज्यादा नहीं है बट गैम्बल पूरा है. आप इतना टाइम लगा रहे हैं and you might not get any return. In the other one, you might get a return, but there's a lot of competition in that. So this is how I look at the investment and the return of the three basic things that we do here.
Okay. Okay. And any advice, any tips, do's and don'ts for an aspiring YouTuber building a knowledge level YouTube business?
See, I think unless you try, you'll never know. So you
Okay.
have to try. I would not recommend leaving a job and doing it.
Okay.
I don't tell anyone to think of कि मुझे YouTuber बनना है should not be a career choice because very simple. YouTube is a third party. It's not in your control. It's not a business कि आप जिसको run कर सकते हो. यूरोप में बहुत सारे तरीके के legislations आ गए, lot of laws which have made this YouTubing thing little more difficult for them. I mean, not difficult, but there are terms and conditions you have to abide by. So YouTube is an external company. You don't have a control on it, and you can't base your entire life on that. If you're 16 and listening to this, don't think of becoming a YouTuber. If you're 25 something or 20 or 30 or 50 something, and if you really enjoy doing something other than your main work, give it a shot. Unless you try, you will never know how well you do at it. So this is my very plain
Okay,
recommendation.
so that's a very nice and very clean advice. Uh, Also, what were the areas you realized while you were doing it? So I'm sure this would not have been a smooth journey for you. You would also have failed. So let's talk a bit about failures as well. So what are the 2, 3, 4, 5 areas that you realized कि अच्छा यार ये तो पता ही नहीं था ये क्या हुआ एकदम से, right? So
Yeah,
either you can help us bust the myths, or maybe you can talk about the failures. Any way like you understand the broad question, right?
right.
So let's speak about that a bit.
See, I've always been assessing the risk generally in life. Also, I think that strategy of knowing what not to do versus, कि ये तो नहीं पता करना क्या है, पर ये पता है क्या नहीं करना है. Because वो जो क्या नहीं पता है, I'm looking at the risk of it. So, business wise speaking, I've been very cautious of all the decisions we take. YouTube में definitely ऐसा बहुत बहुत होता है कि you make a video thinking that I think it's going to solve all the. For example, there's a video on immunity. Okay, coronavirus. It is a very good video. I think nobody watched it. I was like, "Arey, COVID चल रहा है." It has all the information. How do you grow ginger? How do you grow turmeric? Everything is in there. Nobody's watching it. And so yes, these kinds of failures definitely happen, but it's all right. You can just try it again. You have to just try it.
And what's been the lowest point for you in your YouTube journey or in general?
I don't think we have hit our lowest point yet, perhaps. Or I don't know. Probably it's just that I don't think of it so much.
Okay.
Because I was like, okay, YouTube nahi chal raha. I have other things. I concentrate. I like, the store, Garden Up store. I'm like, okay, what are the new products that I want to bring? Okay, let's, resolve this issue that we've been facing for some time. Or, I have to code this. Probably I should try coding myself or get somebody to code it. So I think I keep, distributing my energy and focus into places that I don't take it so seriously.
Fantastic.
I think I should accept this also that financially I do feel secured because I'm married. My husband is full-time working. So definitely I think on a serious note, this sort of gives me a cushion, or probably, I don't get so disturbed. I keep thinking, okay, ye nahi chal raha, to ye kar lete hain. But people for whom they might be the main source of income for their family, it is much more serious for them, perhaps. So I shouldn't, there are a lot of people who are making like serious money out of it.
Yeah, no, again, so I think again it's a very practical advice. In fact, this is something I tell to a lot of people whom I talk to, that I think making sure that you at least have basic financial security in place should be there, rather than once you start playing all this gamble, because you never know in which direction it goes to. Absolutely. What gives you this understanding of business and entrepreneurship? You're not an MBA. You're not somebody who learned this through her college. What makes you a good entrepreneur? How has been your learning and journey as an entrepreneur, and what's your source of learning?
My research training is something that sort of trained me for this, right from going looking for things that are not already established, because doing something that already has been done, it will definitely not get you a lot of traction. That's bottom line. That's established research. People do that, or any field. If you want to start doing something, do like a baseline preliminary work. That's what we call that. For a year or two we do that, looking for things that are not known. So I think this is one thing that has helped me, right from coming up with Garden Up YouTube, Garden Up store, because I was like, okay, so my audience is this people are people of my age, and for them, having plants is not, they don't have a luxury of a terrace, let alone a terrace or a balcony. These are people who have like probably just one window, and they look at a plant like it's some sort of a display, like like people have fancy paintings, right? We have like big plants in place of that. So how do you display them? And that's how I thought of plant decor, and that's how the store came. So that comes from research, go thinking of things that are not done previously, and then again from research that which comes is okay. You know what is your question now? How do you go about it? How you design an experiment around it? So you go
Hmm.
for logistics for it. You go look for people who can help you in this. You talk to
Hmm.
as many people possible. Of course, you Google as many people possible and see at
Hmm.
their stories.
Hmm.
Something that really fascinates me is, of course, reading about people. I read about random stuff. I look at random stuff on YouTube. My YouTube search history perhaps is probably one of the most diversified, weird. So I think that really helps me to learn. And um, and I think at this point, if you know what you want to do, you can always hire help for
Okay.
anything. There are so many freelancers you can hire, or you can reach out to people and say that, I want to do so and so thing. How do I go about it?
Mhm. So how's the garden up taking up shape now? What's happening right now? What's the future plan? So for all those people who don't know about Garden Up, not the YouTube channel, but the e-commerce website, the product company, give us a few more insights into that as well.
Yes. So this store, as I said, started because we wanted to do plant decor.
Hmm.
And the way we are doing it is slightly different from most of the other e-commerce platforms. Other e-commerce platforms, there are two ways in how people, make a product and sell it. One
Hmm.
is either you buy in wholesale and you warehouse it and then you sell it. The other is that you make your own manufacturing unit, which I don't think a lot of people do because that's very expensive and
Right.
making and you would need machine for everything in that case. So mostly people do is that they get it made somewhere, buy in wholesale, and then they sell it. The way we do it is that, see, my expertise is to understand what my audience wants, what they
Okay.
like. My expertise is not making that product, but since I understand what product is required, I reach out to the given artisan and I
Hmm.
say, okay, we can be partners, and let's make this product. I will put it out on our website. The order directly comes to that partner and they're credited on the website. For most of our products, you will see underneath this product is fulfilled by, or we have partnered with, or this product was designed in collaboration with. And whenever the order is placed, they get the order, they fulfill it, it is their product, and we keep less than one third of that for whatever design we helped with, or coming up with the idea, or marketing, or photography, or payment gateway, all of basically the difficult part. I think for an artisan, this is a difficult part, and doing their art is not difficult.
Right.
So, and that's what they take care of. So, this has helped me to reach out to so many artisans and people who make their own stuff, and it makes it easy for them. We are very particular about what is that product, how that's made, how that even is packed and shipped.
Hmm.
Uh, it should be sustainably produced. It should, and I mean, we have put in a lot of thought in each and every aspect, right from packaging to pricing to, who are the people we are working with. Is it sustainable to work with them? Will we be able to have a longer relationship?
Hmm.
So, yes, that's pretty much how we operate.
Very interesting. So I was again looking your profile, and I read all these terms on your profile and also on the channel as well. You have started talking about sustainability, minimalism, and all these aspects as well. Why are
Hmm.
they important?
Because now I have a platform to talk about it, is
Mhm.
I come out and say things like minimalism and sustainability, but they have been part of my existence, or my day-to-day life very much from far before Garden Up happened. And I'm glad that I have this opportunity to talk about it. I think these are very small things, like composting is something I very passionately speak about on my channel. Composting का मतलब होता है खाद बनाना.
Hmm.
uh, घर के खाने से आप खाद कैसे बनाते हैं. And if you step out any big city of India right now, for example, Delhi में गाजियाबाद के पास और फरीदाबाद के पास, there are these major landfills. These are
Hmm.
really smelly places, like hills, heaps of mountains of garbage, because we don't have great recycling units right now in our country. Everything goes and it's dumped into that
Hmm.
hill. more than 50% of the waste that goes out of your or my house is actually kitchen waste. So if
Hmm.
somebody starts just segregating that kitchen waste from everything else, you can use that kitchen waste, put it in a bucket और टेराकोटा पॉट जिसको घड़ा कहते हैं, मटका बड़ा जो घड़ा होता है, या फिर you get like a proper thing which is called khamba. There are tiers of terracotta pot. You keep dumping your kitchen waste, add little bit of curd and little bit of soil. Within like 2 months or so, you will have your own khad or your compost. And if you don't have plants, you can just gift it to your relatives and your friends, and by this method, you will be significantly helping in reducing that waste that goes out of your house. And this is something that I have been doing from long back. And I thought, since now I have this place to talk about it, why not talk about it? So,
Can
and
you, can you,
yeah,
sorry, I'm just interrupting, but can you tell the process once again? It's very interesting. Like you explained it in such a simpler manner. You just need a ghada, you
you
need a
s-
kitchen waste.
first you separate dry waste from wet waste. Dry waste किसे
Okay.
कहते हैं? Or metal, glass, plastic,
Okay.
anything
Okay.
like which um,
Non-biodegradable,
is
basically.
not which is not organic, which is not
Organic,
like which is man-made. Remove
man-made.
those man-made things, and then all your kitchen waste, which kitchen peels, cooked food, eggshells, everything except for meat. Meat will not decompose this way. Meat, fish, bones will not. Apart from this, all your kitchen waste, just dump it in a terracotta pot. बड़ा घड़ा, मिट्टी का बर्तन जितना बड़ा होगा, it'll be better, it'll be more efficient. And make couple of holes underneath and put in, for first time only, just put like 2 tablespoon बड़े चमचे जो होते हैं of dahi. Why? Because curd has microbes that will help in digesting that food. And soil, if you add like a one handful of soil, that will also help introduce microbes that will decompose your food, whatever your food in this. And then you will get this black gold. I think this is what people call compost in 2 3 months. Of course, insects will come. That will happen, but that's the process. Don't be. I get a lot of messages. People are like, "Isme bahut insects are." Is that okay? Yes, those insects are the real heroes. Will do the job. So it's okay. And if you're disgusted by it, just keep it probably in a space that you don't use so much in your house. Like we have a tiny storage space outside a bathroom. So that's where I keep the khamba. Khamba is the typical pot where you can compost. So
So,
yeah.
so, so can you keep on adding like your daily waste every day, and then
Yes.
you take it out after a month, or you need to kind of collect it, keep it, and then kind of
So
open after a month?
that ghada or whatever the terracotta pot, every day you can dump your waste. Or
Mhm.
what I do is I keep one bin outside the kitchen, and every day I keep putting in that for a week, or 3 4 days. Uh, 3 4 days the peels chal jate hain, they don't smell, and then I dump it into that bigger pot.
Hmm.
Otherwise, you can put it every day also if you think that it's smelling and collecting all your waste together is smelling. I just do it out of laziness, that I'll do it on Sunday. Yeah.
That's very interesting. So I want to understand from you, what was your relation with parents like? What has been your relation with money? Because these are two very very important things. Because when your friends are making money in corporate job and you don't have anything in your pocket, I think it's a different mindset. You need to kind of keep on going on. And if let us say you had a good relation with the parents, what's your advice to the people like 16-year-olds watching this, who don't have a good relation? What can they do to kind of convince their parents to allow them to do something unconventional?
See, for the first 1.5 year, I was not staying with my parents. I mean, I was in my hostel, right? So I was just doing what I was doing, and I didn't tell anyone actually.
Hmm.
I never told my family ever. They just got to know from other sources. But since I was getting my scholarship, I was not financially dependent. Um, so it was not really. I mean, I never took permission really. If that's what you're trying to ask, I because I knew what I want to do. So yeah, um, but I did know that I should start saving some money when I was getting my scholarship. So I was saving in mutual funds, and the fun story is that 3 years now. 3 years have finished, and those funds, whatever. I think 3 years the maximum. I mean, minimum time you should keep, and
Uh-huh.
now they're like matured or whatever. So. So I had imagined उस time पर कि 3 साल बाद what if nothing happens in life, then I'll at least have that money. So financial planning was always part, irrespective of YouTube or no YouTube or whatever. So I was saving then. As for my relationship, I've been really headstrong, if that's a good thing, I don't know. Definitely there have been points when, my family has been like, okay, अगर ये करना था तो PhD करने की तो जरूरत नहीं थी. Why did you study so much? ये तो BSc करके भी कर सकते हो, इसके लिए तो 12th standard भी कर सकते हो. So
So how do you combat that question? How do you combat? It's a very interesting. So I want to also understand all this. कि जब आप PhD करके करते हो तो घर वाले बोलते हैं PhD क्यों करी फिर? जब आप PhD नहीं करते, आप BSc पे काम कर रहे होते तो घर वाले बोलते हैं अरे PhD पे मास्टर्स तो कर ले कम से कम. How do you combat the situation? In your case, how do you combat it now?
Yeah. So I've been very objectively explaining things that, okay, so what have I done otherwise? Have done 2 postdocs perhaps to get like into best of institutes of the country as a faculty, which means another 4-5 years. तब भी पक्का नहीं है कि आपको position मिलेगी या नहीं. अभी मेरे पास this is the option, and I see that I can probably do something out of it because I really enjoy doing it. And I have been more like, because I think this is right, I will do this. बाकी मुझे नहीं पता. So yes, so I've tried explaining objectively, and because that is what even I have thought about it. Because I thought that, okay, 4 years here in postdocs and still you don't know what is going to happen. Probably 4 years I will try here and see if I can build something out of it. So that's, yeah.
And you have been very clear in your head कि अच्छा ये समझ में आता है, अब ये करना ही मुझको.
हाँ, and honestly, I'm always like, अगर नहीं भी होगा तो it's okay, I'll do something else. Because I was not, I know अब बहुत लोगों को ऐसा लगता है कि जब आप PhD कर लेते हो आप ऐसी बात कहते हो तो they're like है ऐसे बोल रहे हैं. But I was never good in studies, and I was always like नीचे वाले जो बच्चे होते हैं. So because I was never really like a performer in school, I was never like first, second, third, 10th, 15th भी. So I always knew probably how to deal with failure. I was very active in sports. I was never good in studies. So I was mentally like always okay in dealing with things. So abhi bhi agar if it doesn't go, the trajectory we imagine it to be, I'll be like, okay, kuch aur kar lete hain. That's all right.
So was your family also expecting you to get into a conventional job and not do it? And did this come as a shocker or a surprise? Of course, you said you didn't take permission, but was it like उनका reaction? What was the first reaction? कि when you said कि अच्छा भैया नौकरी वोकरी नहीं करनी, यही करना है full time.
Actually, the first shock was जब मैंने यही बोल दिया था कि मुझे डॉक्टर नहीं बनना, because I traditionally come from a farmer community. तो हमारे यहाँ पर डॉक्टर और इंजीनियर बनना मतलब हाँ इन्होंने अपने बच्चे पढ़ा लिए वाला कॉन्सेप्ट है गांव में. इस तरीके से बात कि अगर आपके बच्चे डॉक्टर इंजीनियर बन गए आपने मेहनत करी है मतलब. So for my parents also that was the thing कि our daughter should become a doctor. But when I said no, that's not happening, तो वो ही पहला शौक था. तो उसके बाद तो बहुत सारे शौक लगते गए, and they probably gotten used to it.
So if I may say that you started training them really early on.
Yeah. So और क्योंकि as I say I was not very good in class, तो उनको हमेशा minimum expectation ही रहती थी मुझसे. Yeah.
So what is your advice for the 16-year-olds now or the 21 years old now who will now be passing out of schools and colleges and want to do something so unconventional? What's your advice to them? How do you do you think what you did could anything better would have been done, or what's your advice in terms of keeping a good relation, amending the relation, or what's your take on that?
I think I'll sound like a proper geek, but I think your education equips you with a lot of things. Because of my education, I got kinds of fellowships to travel across the country and outside the country many, many times. And that opened my horizons. I was exposed to lots of things. So, and none of this I had to pay for. So I think education should always be your primary importance thing. उसको neglect नहीं करना चाहिए. And after that, if there's anything that you enjoy, you can, always give it a shot. uh, and especially I think for young children it is difficult to explain their parents, but examples definitely help. Do your research,
Hmm.
Google and look at people's story and say देखो उसने ऐसे करा था, उसने ऐसा करा था. So that definitely helps. Education equips you. I think it exposes you. You get to know about so many people, so many things कि अच्छा ऐसे भी होता है, वैसे भी होता है. अगर वो सिर्फ एजुकेशन हमारे सिंपल घरों के लिए एजुकेशन ही एक्सपोजर का तरीका है. अगर
Hmm.
एजुकेशन होती, I would have never left whatever, staying with my parents and gone and studied in Delhi and Dehradun and Bangalore and stuff. तो बाकी चीजें उसके अराउंड होती रही, बट एजुकेशन वाज माय प्राइमरी source of empowerment, I would say.
What is your advice to people, or what are your what are the tips from your side for the people who are now living in polluted cities, Delhi's, Bombay's, Bangalore's of the world, small houses, lack of gardening space? What are the 3 or 5 tips you want to give to people who want to set up a home garden or want to kind of get closer to nature?
I think start with the simplest money plant. I know
Mhm.
बहुत ही basic plant है. लगेगा कि अरे Instagram पे तो थोड़ा fancy plant लगाते हैं, but start with the money plant. Any plant that can be grown from a cutting. So you can get it from your neighbor, you can steal it from your society, but just take a cutting, put it in water, let the roots come out, and then put it in soil. Money plant or the pothos is that plant I'm talking about. If you want to go out and buy a couple of plants, if you're a beginner, get snake plant, get rubber plant, get I look around my house to name plants, and get ZZ plant. These are the easiest plants. First of all, uh, get used to the idea कि अच्छा पानी कैसे डालते हैं, कितना डालते हैं, what is the kind of patience you need, because plant is not something आज पानी डाला कल नया पत्ता आएगा. That will not happen. You have to wait. So and then especially beginners, they're so obsessed that they will keep watering the plant and it dies. So just to get used to that idea of parenting a plant, get these 2 3 new simple plants. Get used to कि अच्छा किसको bright light कहते हैं, किसको low light कहते हैं, and then graduate to having like a full sanctuary in your house. So this is my tip for people who want to build.
I think awesome way to kind of conclude the entire conversation. So moving on to the rapid fire, where I'll be talking about all, these are all light-hearted questions. You can answer in one word on one line. Which video has been the most fun to shoot or has been the funniest ever on your channel?
With the next up, YouTube next up, we did this like a fun take on if you were plant obsessed. That was so funny to shoot because my true personality comes in out. Like
Okay.
random पौधा रखा है सड़क पे उठा लूं क्या, cutting ले लूं क्या. So that was a fun video. Yeah.
Okay. What would you have done if you were not a YouTuber or were not an entrepreneur running Garden Up?
Looking for a faculty position somewhere.
Okay. But I think you're already teaching the world via YouTube. So I think you're already there.
Or like professor is a more traditional. Yeah.
Professor. Okay. So we'll call you Professor Ekta from now on.
No, you don't become a professor immediately. You become an assistant professor, associate, and then yeah.
Right. What's the next big thing in the pipeline for you?
My book.
Fantastic. What do you think has been your biggest achievement till date?
Getting through the PhD entrance exam, cracking that entrance exam.
And last question is, who inspires you the most, or who's your inspiration?
Honestly, anybody who does their job well
Okay.
inspires me. Yes, I
But is
think
there
that's
any one person from whom you take your inspiration from?
no. I think I'm somebody who gets inspired very easily. So
Okay. So those are all the questions that I have for you. I have 3 questions in the chat. I'll quickly read them up for you and you can answer them. Decorating home, oblique office, oblique school, etc. From only indoor, from
indoor.
only indoor, sorry, indoor and outdoor plants. Can we do this as a startup, right? Cause with the decoration, there's a health benefit. Also, there's doing something. I think he's asking from the point of view that can we build a startup around it? So what's your take onto that?
I think yes, definitely you can do that. But when you make a business out of something like that, you have to do a lot of research. You have to look for is there a real need for this, or people can just do it by themselves? If there is, what is going to be your market? How will you market it? How will you look at the logistics? How will you look at the maintenance? Because with plants you have to do the maintenance. And what is the competition like already? There are people already landscaping, right, at a very big level. So you have to do a lot of research on that.
What is the scope of studying ecology now in 2020?
Scope for studying any subject is equal. You have to identify what you want to do really out of it. I studied ecology because I was curious of forest and natural ecosystem. That's something that attracted me, and I felt that I want to go and work in the field. You can join in. There are lots of departments in the country now. There is, of course, there's Ministry of Environment and Forest, and they have lots of positions. You can become a Indian Forest Services, IFS. You can be a faculty position. You can be a scientist. Yeah, and there's something called EIA, which is Environment Impact Assessment, which is like a compulsory thing for any big project that takes place in the country. They have to do that. So for that also, there are a lot of people who do like startups, make business out of that. They do EIAs for them. So there are a lot of actually, I feel ये question बहुत पूछने को, like people ask this question a lot, especially 10, 12 student. And I always say that हर subject का equal scope है. You have to just get creative and don't go by the conventional कि ये पढ़ के ये बन जाएंगे वाला. This is the perfect time to get creative and go and look what are the other things you can do apart from the traditional ones.
Fantastic. So, any closure advice or any closure remarks from your side before we wrap today's podcast?
It was so great to be here because I actually talked about things I hadn't even thought of. So
Okay.
I think I should start doing these more. I should start talking to people more about garden up this way. I just feel a little hesitant because I think you oversell ho raha hai, but I think it's a fun exercise. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thanks a lot from my side, my entire team side, and audience side to make up time for doing this. So it was super fun, and thank you so much.
Sure. Thank you so much for having me. It was an absolute pleasure.